What I wanted to do was to make a little video and talk about preserving pinball backglasses, the ink on the backglasses of some older machines, where over time, depending on the conditions of how the backglass was stored, the ink will kind of start to fall off. It'll separate from the glass and it kind of turns into a big ugly mess, and it's pretty sad and upsetting. Anyway, so I read online about people who are taking this product, which is Krylon Triple Thick, and they're spraying it on the backglasses, and that helps to kind of hold everything in place. And some other people were saying that they were taking a clear plastic wrap and putting it on top of it while the Krylon is wet, and then putting a big book or something like that on it to kind of hold it down in place. Something about that concerns me because in the case of the machine that I've got and the glass that I'm working with, if you even look at the ink that has lifted off, if you even look at it funny, it shatters into a million pieces and falls on the floor. So I didn't want to run the risk of putting the Krylon down and then trying to get this plastic wrap on top of it and then try to put a book on it without shifting everything around. So I thought, well, let's experiment with it. So I went and I bought these document frames from the dollar store, $1.50 each. What a deal. They have glass on them, and I bought 3 of them. And on each one, I put a couple pieces of tape, just regular, like, transparent cellophane tape. And one piece I just put down by itself, just to kind of see how the Krylon reacted to it, if it beat it up or did anything weird. The other one, I folded the tape onto itself so that there was kind of a flap of tape there that wouldn't stick. The other half was stuck to it. And I figured that would probably be pretty good for emulating the ink that was coming up. And then, so I have 3 of them. I sprayed them light, medium, and heavy. And then on one side, I put the plastic wrap down and then set one of these big, heavy, neon transformer, because they weigh like 10 pounds each. And, you know, if anything, it's going to smash it down, that'll do it. What I found was that when the Krylon was wet, I had just sprayed it, and then I tried to put this plastic wrap on there. When the plastic wrap touches the Krylon, it's unforgiving. That's it. It's staying right there. And if you pick it up and try to adjust it, it's not going to work very well. And if you have really loose ink on your plate or on your backglass, I have a feeling you're probably going to move a lot of those little flakes of ink. You're going to tear them off, and yeah, it's just going to be a big mess. The other thing I didn't like about the plastic wrap was that the finish was terrible, because I couldn't get it on smooth, and I didn't dare kind of flatten it down with my fingers because I was pretending that there was loose ink on this thing. So the end result is that you've got, this is the side that didn't, this is the light one. This is the side that didn't have the plastic, and this is the side that did. And I think you can see in the reflection that it's pretty miserable. On the one where I just sprayed it light, my little piece of tape is still loose, and it didn't stick down at all. On the plastic wrap side, it did stick. It's not going anywhere, you know, and it would take a second coat just fine. And I think that you'd probably be safe in saying that stuck there. The medium one was a little bit different. Just spraying it without the clear plastic wrap on top, it's stuck on there. It's not going anywhere. And on the heavier one, where I really kind of dosed it, especially over the tape part, the Krylon got underneath the tape and held it in place without all of the plastic wrap nonsense and this terrible finish that you end up with. So I thought for my glass, I would go ahead and try it without it. Now, the glass that I'm possibly destroying is from a 60s era Williams game called Palooka. And what had happened was, when I bought the machine, there was a few pieces of ink missing off the back glass. But I thought, you know, that's not too bad. It's, you know, it's all right. We'll just hit it with Krylon and everybody's happy. When I actually pulled the glass out of there and took a closer look, a mouse had taken up residence at some point behind this machine and behind the glass, and everywhere that the mouse, you could see a trail that he had moved behind the glass, and everywhere that he went, he was leaving mouse dirt behind, which was acidic or something, I don't know. But it was lifting all of the ink was coming up everywhere that he went. When I tried to clean it, just touching it, it was just falling off there. So it was pretty bad shape. If I hadn't done anything, probably within a few moves, it just would have all fallen off. Just getting it out of the box, I lost a couple little pieces. So it was, if I didn't do anything, it would just go to hell. So I figured I'm just going to try the Krylon. We'll see what happens. So I masked off there was just the few places where the score reel show. Masked that off with tape, and then I went ahead and I sprayed somewhat heavy in the areas where the ink was really lifting, and then where the ink seemed okay, I just kind of gave it a light coat, just kind of hold it there. And I think I might end up doing another one. I'm going to try and touch it up as well, and then I'll probably do another, just kind of an even coat over the whole thing to kind of smooth it out. I don't know what it looks like yet. So on the YouTube videos that I saw of doing this, they show them doing it. They show them putting the plastic, putting the book down, but they don't show the result of that. And so we're going to find out what happens when we do this. I'm jumping ahead of myself though, because what I ended up doing was, after I sprayed the stuff, I found that the ink, after about 20-30 minutes, it was sitting in a puddle of Krylon, and the ink was relaxing, and it was sort of setting itself down onto the glass by itself. The Krylon, the surface of the Krylon was, you could touch it. It was kind of tacky, but it wasn't too terrible. It wasn't wet anymore. So I thought this is a great time to actually put the plastic wrap down, because I can lay it down, I can sort of adjust it, I can play around with it a little bit without fear of it tearing all the ink off. That's exactly what I did. So I pushed a few of the severely raised up pieces down with an X-Acto knife. I laid down the plastic wrap on top of it, and then with my finger I lightly kind of pushed down to sort of mash it smooth. Then I put down a clean shop towel on top of the plastic wrap. I put a piece of glass on top of that, and then 3 of those heavy as hell transformers. I let it sit for 24 hours. So I will go ahead and I'll move the camera and we'll have a look. We'll peel the plastic back and see what happened. So you'll either hear me crying or you'll hear me pleasantly surprised. Alright, so let's remove these heavy things. This is actually this is the heavy test that I did, and you can see that it just looks miserable with the plastic. But on this side, where it was just heavy with no plastic, it's fairly smooth. It's not too bad, and the tape is well secured down. The little flap of tape is well secured down. So that was what kind of gave me the idea to just go ahead and go forward with this. There is still the glass is still fairly dirty because, like I said, I couldn't clean it very well because all of these sections, it just looking at it made it fall out. These sections I could clean because the ink was still fairly secure there. Up in here it was more or less okay. These numbers that you can see through, they all cleaned up okay, except for the number 9. When I kind of touched it with a Q-tip, it just sort of, this stuff came right off. So let's peel this off and see if I wreck this thing. And down here, this is really where it was the worst. This section up here especially was all raised up, and I can actually superimpose some before and after pictures, I guess, or some before pictures rather, so you can kind of see what it looked like. But right now, just without taking the plastic off, it does look like it's fairly flat. Seems okay. But so let's carefully peel this thing off. And so I do see, the first thing I do see is I see a little bit of, you can see the little wrinkles from the plastic, but it's not nearly as bad as my test ones where it was quite wet. So far so good. It's coming off and I'm not taking any ink with it. That's a positive thing. The lower section was a little bit lighter. Up here, this is where we learn if I'm an idiot or not. Seems to be working. And no ink. That's a very good thing. You can actually see little, well, maybe you can see it. I don't know. I can't see what you see. I'll see it when I watch the video. But there's little pieces of ink here that had just kind of fallen off, and there's one right there, in fact. Where did it go? Who knows? So I'm pretty happy with the results on this. Let's flip it over and see what it looks like. So there is, you can see, maybe not, I don't know, but I can see that there is a little discoloration here in these blues from where the maybe the Krylon got under or didn't get under, but you know it's, and especially right here, actually you can tell that this was raised up in here. But the alternative would be all of that falling off and having a big hole there, kind of like this, which, you know, nobody wants. Nobody needs that. So I think that that's probably a pretty good method, pretty safe method of doing it, especially in a case of something like this where it's never going to be perfect. You would have to basically strip everything down and repaint it if you wanted it perfect, or, you know, scan it, clean it up, and reprint it. I don't want to do that with this machine. I want to leave some of the history, and the history of a mouse living behind it and wrecking things is part of its history. So I'm pretty happy with this, and I think that I'll go ahead and use this method again. I do know I've been offered a Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man glass that is all the ink has kind of come up and bubbled up off of it, but apparently none of it has fallen off yet. And I've been offered that as a test. And what I'll do is I'll make a video of doing that, so that we can kind of see the process all the way through. I didn't think to film this as I was doing it, just because I didn't. I have no excuses. But yeah, so I'm happy, and hopefully that's a little bit educational for you, that you can, you know, you can see what the plastic does and the results of that, and taking it off of there. And I would not put the plastic on while the Krylon is soaking wet. I would wait, let it cure a little bit. At least that we know that the 1960s ink gets malleable underneath the Krylon. In the Krylon puddle, it gets a little malleable and flexible. I don't know about other years or eras or paints or inks, but we do know it works for this one. I would assume that that's probably the case on the other ones, but we'll find out later. Anyway, alright, thanks for watching.